Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the best enchantments in each and every color, as voted by the community, and then as picked by me for my favorite. As usual, there will be, like I said, one pick the community agrees is the best, and then one pick that I think is not necessarily the best, but definitely the coolest. Anyway, without further ado, let's hop right into it, shall we? Unsurprisingly, for white, number 1 is Smothering Tithe. For 3 and a white, you get an enchantment with whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If that player doesn't, you create a treasure token. I agree, super duper powerful, especially if you pair it with the abilities to wheel and make everyone draw a new grip. It can be extremely oppressive in that instance. However, I do not think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be, but it is very powerful, I agree. For my choice, we have Smuggler's Share. For 2 and a white, you get an enchantment at the beginning of each end step. Draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. Then create a treasure token for each opponent who had 2 or more lands enter the battlefield under their control this turn. Number 1, that art is adorable, and no one can tell me otherwise.
Just come in my yard. Just come in my yard. Just come in my...
Number 2, this card can draw you up to, it won't, but it can draw you 3 cards each player's turn, so a total of 12 cards per 1 turn rotation. It's not going to happen, but more likely, it will draw you 1 to 2 cards, maybe even 3 cards per rotation, and that is extremely good for a 3-mana card. There are some games where this card will do nothing, but most of the time it'll net you at least 3 cards if you play it early enough in the game. If people are playing fetch lands, like they play a land, sack it, tutor out another land, then this will give you a treasure. They can, however, delay it and play it, not use it, then wait another turn, then crack it, sure, but then they're down a land to deny you 1 treasure, and that's still a win in my book. More often than not, this card is going to draw you a hefty amount of cards and just sit there looking pretty. To no one's surprise, the community choice for blue is Rhystic Study. For 2 and a blue, you get an enchantment whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. I don't really need to talk about this thing. Everyone knows about it. It's super duper good. We all know it's super duper good. Like, I've seen playmats that just says, will you pay the 1, and we know exactly what we're talking about here. That's how popular this card is. I personally will beat the crap out of anyone who has this on their battlefield, because drawing that many cards, all it takes is one person to simply just not want to pay the tax, and then suddenly you're drawing a bajillion cards off this 3-mana card. Be responsible. Pay your taxes. My choice for coolest blue enchantment is As Foretold. For 2 and a blue, you get an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. Realistically, you need to play this early, like early to mid-ish. It really excels when you have exactly 2 counters on it, because that means you get your free counter spells, you get your free cantrips, you get your free interaction spells. That's like the sweet spot for counter spells and spot removal and kill spells and whatnot. Being able to play a free one on each and every player's turn can be extremely viable. However, the downside of this card is it does take time to build up. Yes, you can technically play it and then immediately play one of the 0-mana suspend cards for free, sure, okay, whatever, but more importantly, you're probably going to use it on 1, 2, 3 drops a lot, and once it gets past 4, it's just okay, it's gravy. But I think that's where it really excels, is when you're at 2 counters or 3 counters, you can remove things and counter things and interact with the board for 0 mana once on each player's turn. Very good. For black, we have Necropotence. For black, 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 you get an enchantment, skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard, pay 1 life, exile the top card of your library face down, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your next end step. Honestly, very boring. Yes, you can pay a bajillion life and get them all in your hand at your end step, and then cherry pick your best cards, and then hope no one kills you on one rotation and you win, sure. The way I've always used it is I just put it myself back up to 7. It's still good, but it's not like I'm not overdoing it. I'm just drawing half my deck. But it is a super good card. I mean, I think it's a little boring, but people like what they like. My pick is No Mercy. For 2 black, black, you get an enchantment whenever a creature successfully deals damage to you, destroy it. There are not a lot of Pillow Fort cards in black, especially none as effective as No Mercy. Now, this does not necessarily say combat damage, it just says damage. So if you have something that deals 1 damage to each player whenever X is met, then it blows up. Let's say you have a Nekasar problem. Well, No Mercy, no problem. Nekasar explodes. Pretty good deal, you know? Community pick for red was Fiery Emancipation. For 3 red, 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 you get an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Wow, this is our first community pick that doesn't just draw a lot of cards. Fiery Emancipation is super cool. It turns your lightning bolts into 9 bolts, as well as any other damage source is just exponentially multiplied by 3. It's quite a lot of damage. You've effectively cut all of your opponent's health into a third without actually cutting their health into a third. And it just usually wins the game either the turn it comes down or the following turn after. Triple damage, turns out, pretty good. My pick for red, also 6 mana, Sunbird's Invocation, 5 and a red enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less for among those cards revealed this way without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Yes, this does have to have a whole rotation basically. You play it, you hope, and then you untap and blow people up. The amount of value this card gets over the course of even 1 or 2 spells is bananas. Because you're going to get a free, let's say 7 drop, right? You're casting 7 mana with the top 7 cards, that's pretty deep, and then cast any 7 mana card or less for free. That's really good. And every single turn this thing is out, you are getting exponentially more value and more value. And the fact that this thing is super financially cheap as well, definitely check it out. And we're back to the card draw. Sylvan Library for green is 1 and a green enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put that card on top of this library. So I do agree, this card is pretty rad. When I first read it, I didn't think it was that good, but if you're playing a Top Deck Matters deck, I think this is where that really matters. If you're just playing it as a general value card, I don't think it's that exceptional, especially because it will goad you into taking 8 extra life each turn to take all 3 cards. Yes, that's good, but I can't tell you how many times I've had people lose because they were greedy and took the 8 like 3 turns in a row and then just got finished off. Definitely take a look if you're playing Top Deck Matters or a deck that gains an absurd amount of life, but if your deck does neither, I would not play this card. And finally, my pick for green is Lurking Predators. For a 4 green enchantment, whenever an opponent casts any spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it is a creature card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you may put that card on the bottom of your library. This card is phenomenally strong, especially if your deck contains 40 plus creatures, and even more so if your deck contains a lot of big creatures. If this is left unchecked for even 1 or 2 turns, you're going to pump out a ton of free dudes that are completely uncounterable because they are put, not cast. Important to remember, if you cast the spell, yeah, and I flip the top card and it is a creature with a cool ability, you cannot respond to that creature until it is already entered the battlefield, in which case it will already have its ability on the stack. They are not separate triggers. I've told people this a lot. It is not flip, reveal, wait, then cast it. It's flip, reveal, put. And there's no in between. You cannot respond or react between the flipping and the putting. So this makes a lot of scary ETBs super scarier. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you guys as always. If you have any questions, I want to do a questionnaire video at some point. Feel free to post those. And if not, if you have any video ideas, I will be happy to do those as well. Please give me some critiques in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and you have a wonderful day.